familiar with the confounding variable concept, so I was looking up the definition and finding all the sources in order to
Christopher, did
proceed.
you watch the videos that I posted?
Yes, I started watching them, so I was getting back to them, but I was going to ask because, for example, I am well familiar with the problem that the article is presenting because it has multiple hypotheses. So I also wanted to ask, is there a limit or how many hypotheses can one possibly present or elaborate in just one article? So that was one of my main questions because the the way that I structure the problem is that the article begins by presenting the challenges faced by the agricultural sector due to two main reasons, climate change and regulatory pressures. But then it filters down into the three elements of environmental, social aspects, and governance issues, uh, heavily affecting small and medium-sized companies, whereas large-scale companies can capitalize on these so-called challenges in the regulatory aspects. So it starts working with multiple variables in these three elements. And so it does a statistical model, but when it came to the confounding variable, I didn't understand because when you're analyzing something that is climate change that you can't control, it will affect, for example, the financial performance, the crop yields, the water strategies, irrigation systems, etc. And that part I understood, but I wasn't able to identify a confounding variable in this particular aspect that they are elaborating. So I'm kind of stuck in that issue because I don't know how to identify in this article. The rest of the part, even though I'm not a statistical major, that's not my forte, I was able to follow definitions and interpret the charts and table. But the confounding variable, that's where I'm stuck. I can't identify it, at least within this particular article.
Okay. Watch the series that I posted in the first video. I can't remember which one it is. But anyway, it's 1 hour of videos. It's not too many videos. It's 1 hour. And they do spend some time talking about the concept of confounding variables and how you need to include them in your analysis. So if there is a confounding variable, it's already been included, but maybe explicitly not stated, right?
Yeah, because on the literature review portion, one of the things I was interested is that when they present in the data collection methods, I did mention that they use a statistical model. Let me look up here my Excel table.
Yeah, you want to share?
Sure, let me see how I can share my screen here. How do I do this? Because I have two screens here. Let's see if this one share. So can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking here at where's the statistical, make sure the sample size is adequate, is hypothesis, where is it? Okay, so they use here the theoretical framework, important relevant information. Let me open up the article because they were mentioning how given, yeah. So when it comes to the gap of the literature, they recognize that since they're using different information available in stock markets in different European countries, that was a limitation. So they use something that they call, let me see here, where I have on the Excel document. Let me see, confounding.
I saw it.
You saw it? It's just I've been trying to, where is it, hypothesis. So I put here that they actually use, where is it? Oh my God, I'm blind to that here. Where is it? They measure and compare deposit framework, statistical. Where is the statistical model? It's further down.
Can you make it bigger for yourself? You can see better, or make it not
It's
bigger,
just
but
that
make it maybe make the font smaller. It's easier to scroll.
data collection model. Let's have up here. So using the FGOC, they use it because they acknowledge that when you're using different cross-sectional data, it was the best model to make a regression in order to avoid any potential errors or assumptions because they're comparing different countries and each country has its own regulatory pressures. So in this case, I understood that this could be used as maybe as a confounding variable because they are all looking at the same issues, but each jurisdiction or market is gonna have its own challenges. For example, the European Union is very strict and they actually incentivize companies with all the reports they have to make using the example of Norway, but Norway has a very societal norms that in their culture is actually incentivized, but in other areas they don't really specify which countries, but they use the Serbian stock market, for example, and they have other challenges. So I'm guessing that I kind of see what the confounding variable is because on my notes here, I see that, for example, confounding when you are using um, different influences mixed up with the factor, that's not in confounding. But by default, the three factors that they are using, the environmental, societal, and governments, all three of them, they interact with each other. So I'm not sure, maybe that will be the confounding variable, but all three of them also have their own hypothesis. So it keeps on being filtered down over and over. So I guess that's the part where I got stuck. I understood the research, but when it came to that particular part of the table, I gave it a one because I wasn't sure where to put it because I couldn't analyze it or interpret it.
If
It
there
wasn't
is
there for
no
me.
confounding and you don't know if it's bad or good, you would make it neutral,
Oh, okay,
right?
so
You
that
have no
and
opinion, like, so
yeah,
probably it's neutral for you from what you
yes,
read.
let me just put
But
it here.
in terms of, okay, so confounding is a confounding variable could be the variable responsible for the relationship that's being observed, but not included in the study. So it could be like, so it's a lurking variable or confounding variable that you would, okay, well, lurking variable is a confounding variable that you can't identify. Like it's there, but you don't know what it is. And you can speculate that there's something else driving that you can't identify. But if you know of a confounding variable, it should be controlled for in your analysis. So I have
Okay,
to, I have to, let me see, let me check something, okay?
yes,
The name of the papers here. Sorry, the actual article. So, um, who are these authors? Where are they from, Christopher? Sweden?
they are.
Sweden?
No, I one of them. They are from they're from usually Romania, so Eastern Europe.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Europe, Poland, yeah, Europe and Poland, basically.
I'm checking something. Okay. So you guys, I'm I'm permitting you to use AI as a helper for your work. Okay. I don't want you to use it to write. You can
Hmm?
use it for editing. You can use it for suggestions, but really you should be writing your own work. You shouldn't be so dependent on AI, but it's going to make like it's something that existed that didn't exist 2 years ago in the power and the potential it has to save time. I don't want to make it so that you use and depend completely on it because I want you to learn something. But I don't want to take it away from you. In the near future, we don't know if this AI is going to be good for us or bad. I mean, a lot of people speculate it's a bad thing. Let's have fun with it while we can. I think that's my suggestion. Let's enjoy while we can. So all I did was I put it in, I use Grok. I think I mentioned that last time in Twitter. And all I put in there was the article that I've given you the citation. Did I show you last week how to make a citation from Google Scholar? You can copy it from there. So that's all I did. And let me show you what it tells me. Now you have to read any AI stuff you get, you have to read it very carefully because there could be errors in there, but it gives you something you can at least verify. It gives you, some work to do. You don't never cut and paste from AI. You should use it to verify. So let me share what I'm looking at. So I put in there, is there a confounding variable that is controlled for in the study? And I just cut and paste the study. And then it tells me the study, it's a very long title. While the full text of the study is not publicly accessible in the provided search results, the abstract and related literature offer insights into the likely confounding variables controlled for in such research. Based on this and standard practices and econometric studies of ESG and financial performance, I can provide an informed analysis. So he goes through a list of the kind of analysis that was done, the panel data analysis, and the possible confounding factors that are controlled for. So there you go. You can read through all of those to verify. Now, Grok, I think I mentioned, if you have a free account, you can only make 20 questions every hour or two or something like that. If you pay, you can make more. I don't remember how much it is. We have Copilot at the university. You can use that as well to pose questions like this. All right, so it won't have the definitive answer because it says it couldn't access the paper. I actually think you can upload the paper into Grok and it can actually read it. And you can ask these questions to understand better. Is that helpful for you, Christopher?
Yes, because basically what the company size, the industry specific factor, and the country level difference are the aspect that I put as the problem part of the article. So now I guess I'll have to analyze to see
How they used it.
how they used it. Yes, because from what I read, those 6 points is what I put as part of the research problem because that is what they're trying to analyze how it interacts in the components of EGS. So I guess I'll just have to take a look at it, but that definitely helps.
And then it talks about panel data analysis. Okay, so we need to talk about panel data. So I gave you guys papers with regression and then variations, multiple regression, panel data analysis. Does anybody read their paper and find a different kind of regression that you can mention right now?
I did mine use VAR.
VAR?
Yes. Basically, it's instead of analyzing just a set of variables, they analyze the entire system and each variables how they affect each other, not just one with how A affects B and C, how each of them is more like a network type of analysis, but using regression and econometrics. In my case, they studied currencies exchange. And basically, they were looking at about 10 years of data of how the exchange rates, how each different crisis across this time span affected positively or negative the exchange rate of emerging markets. They pulled a list from the IMF of the top emerging markets countries, and that's how they picked their sample. And then they analyzed the historical data of each of those currencies, and they found that there were specific time periods like COVID, obviously, but also the Rubro crisis. They also talked about the Argentinian crisis, and there were others. And so they found that some countries were more contagious than others.
Mm,
Some were the ones that affecting, and others were the ones like receiving the impacts, the blows
mhm,
from that crisis.
mhm.
So there were the whole point of the article is to find ways to protect your investments. You know, when there is a crisis, to know like if there's a crisis in this country, it's going to spill over to X amount of countries. So you have to look at your investments and say, then I'm not going to invest in companies from those countries because you're going to be, you know, basically adding more risks to your portfolio.
Very good, very good. So, how did you find the Excel file extracting the information? Like each of these questions you could ask in an AI to help you understand, what I wanted from you. And I don't expect you guys to know all of that. Basically, that's the end product is that you're going to be able to produce a paper that that satisfies all those criteria. That's basically where I'm headed. I'm just giving you some paper that's not exactly randomly chosen, but had with some standard. I gave it to you just to try and extract that whether or not it had all those components in there. I made sure it was quantitative to make it's supposed to be easier, but it can be confusing when it's maybe a model that you're not familiar with. But it sounds like you guys so far did a good job of unraveling and dissecting what was given to you. How did you find the Excel sheet, George? Did you make progress with it?
I haven't finished putting all the information in the Excel, but I think it was I think it's really good for us to like review and pinpoint areas where we need to look at when we're going to be writing
What you're
our
going to be
documents.
writing and how other people get it out, and that you're going to find that it's in every paper. Some version is in every, well, these papers, right? These are peer reviewed quality papers that have like a quantitative model in it. So that's cool. Thank you, George and Christopher. Anybody else want to tell me about their experience so far? Any questions about what I'm expecting? I think
So,
uh, Carlo, who's trying?
Karjit,
Karjin.
how are you? So in my paper, I had the Wolf Villadin paper, and where you asked about the regressions. My paper is based on proportional dependent variables and the misuse that it's commonly used or misused, I'm sorry, in papers. And I realized that in mine, there is not just one single regression. They used three types of regression. One was the Tobit model, the OLS model, and fractional regression, and how it's used in each one. So that was interesting because it's not only one type of regression used on mine or explained
Yes,
in
that's right.
the
That's
seminal
right.
paper I have. It's more of a literature review on I think it was 91 papers reviewed to create this paper. Uh, and the
But they
other
did
thing that
do an
was
analysis. They did an
they
analysis.
did they do an
Yeah, so
analysis.
it's exactly. It's not, they didn't do a regression per se, but they analyzed regressions. So I thought it was
Yeah,
even more because you're a little more ahead of the others. I thought I'd give you something
yeah,
intriguing. Like
I I
I
realized
thought you, yeah, I thought it was great when I found it. And so anyway,
yeah
I
I
passed it to
realized
you.
that the only not trouble but challenge I have is being able to, because the questions in the Excel were fairly easy once I read the paper, but
They don't
but
apply.
in no, everything applies. But when I was trying to set a scale to each one, it was a little bit harder because, in my opinion, well, everything was was a yes, was four, was five. I agreed with most of it,
Yeah.
So it was hard to not give anything under a neutral. The only thing I did give a couple, I'm still giving and realize and evaluating it, but some of the characteristics presented, I did have to give a neutral because I'm not too sure if I agree or disagree because I just don't know. So I put
Okay,
it as a neutral and I explained why I put it as a neutral.
good. Okay, good. No, that's good. You guys sound like so far you're getting around. So are there any, so which ones did you not understand? If you guys can tell me the ones, let me put it up and tell me the ones so I can talk about them a little bit. And then I'll do this more in a systematic way, but I just wanted to dump it on you at first so that you guys can, I guess, like throwing a child into water, right? And seeing them get their footing. So let me share this page again.
So in my paper, the ones that I put as neutral was in Sep 2 in the literature review section. One was the search strategy used in the databases that's described.
Okay.
Uh, so
Wait. Let me
yeah.
see. Let me highlight it. So tell me. So let's go through and you guys tell me which ones you didn't understand or what's. I'll put them in red. So are these all clear?
On the first ones, on the first step, I didn't have a problem with them. It was starting. I had two on step 2, and
Okay, hold on, Karjit. Let me ask the other. So anybody with problems? Any questions about step 1? So step 2 was a search strategy. So this won't necessarily be explicitly presented, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. And what they'll do there, okay, we did talk about search strategy. But I want to show you how to use AI to help you with that too. Okay. And then so we're going to talk about this today because you have to work on your next assignment. How would you know if the keyword search produced a thorough research search? So if you can't answer this one, you won't be able to really answer this one, right? So
that
these
was
might,
that was the second one that I left as neutral.
yeah, you don't know. You don't know if they didn't present it. You don't know. Neutral, nothing to say, no comment. So yeah, if they don't present the search strategy or the keywords used, then how will you know to evaluate? How do you evaluate? Well, if they give it to you, you can actually check it and see for yourself if they missed key papers. If you are an expert in an area, so that's why I want to match you guys with like similar topics or in similar interests so that you can actually, when you see the person, your pare, your partner, not your partner, but your peer, when you see how they collected, like when you see the data or the papers that they collected and they missed a concept that you know is part of that research thread or that vein of research, then you can say, well, they missed something, so that it could have been the search that they did or could have been just like you need to be thorough. And if they're missing major concepts, then they didn't do a thorough search. In your own experience, when you start to look for papers for your literature review, you stop when the papers are reinforcing other papers. So when your themes start to repeat, that's when you know you have enough papers. Carlos, you have a comment?
Yes, I have a comment. I just wanted to give some tips on the important relevant references are included part. What I usually do when I'm doing research is that I search for, I forgot the official term of a summary paper or something like that. It's a paper that like tries
Systematic
to.
review.
Exactly. And I usually go through, I know they're very long. Obviously, I don't read word for word, but I start to like read them, lightly, and then I keep reading other papers that try to do the same, and until you start like seeing a pattern. And when you start seeing that the same papers cite like the same people, those usually, not necessarily, but sometimes those papers that all the other papers cite are called like foundational papers on the subject, or like the authority on the subject.
Seminal papers.
Exactly. So that's like a tip that maybe could help people.
I wanted to share that in my article, they had a heavy emphasis on bibliometric analysis, and they did like a mapa conceptual, a branch of keywords using something called VOS Viewer. First time I saw that. So in those 2 points, I was able to give it a 5 because it was actually well illustrated in figures. They managed to filter it down to like 26 or 24 articles for 200 plus that they have when they did all that search. So what I this paper in particular, even though it has a quantitative nature, uh, I would say that it might have something qualitative in the sense that it feels also very historical based. Just the way that it is redacted reminded me of when I used to do research in anthropology, doing a literature review. So I was able to sort of connect that. But at least this particular paper, it was very bibliometric oriented down until the data collection and processing. Everything was based on bibliometric analysis and the repeating words, and then they started elaborating their hypothesis based on the research or lack thereof, the gaps in the knowledge. So that was something very
Very
interesting.
systematic, very systematic approach. Yeah. What
Yes.
I did when I gave you your paper, I named the paper with the author. Let me see. Hold on. I put in the title of the paper. I mean the title of the document. I put the scoring so I put your name, then I put the authors. If it had more than 3 authors, I just put et al, like in associates is what I call that. And then I also put a letter grade for the ABDC, so you know the quality of the journal. You could have checked yourself the quality of the journal. Um, in fact, I'm just checking the quality of the journal today, but to do it properly, you would actually probably have to check the quality of the journal when it was published. But I think it's important also to know what the quality of the journal today. Most of them were pretty current. I think the earliest one I posted was Victor. I gave him a very seminal paper from 2000. But otherwise, I gave everybody a more recent article. I just found it very interesting, and I don't know, I thought he might like that. Like I had to give it to somebody, and it's a top paper, so it's a very high quality seminal paper. Had like thousands of citations. All right, so that's what I did, just to give you an idea of except for Christopher's. I don't know. I didn't put the score. I don't know how I missed that, but and Andrews. Anyway, you guys can look it up though in the ABDC journal link, journal site, not journal, ABDC quality, journal quality website. You can search the journals rank. I showed you guys that last week. And if you want, I can show you again. Okay, let me get through this. So yeah, we're going to talk about the search strategy some more and systematic reviews and things. So most likely it didn't appear. Did anybody actually have it in their paper? The search strategy and the keyword search? Anyone? So you would have that in a systematic review. They present that. So you'll get to see, and they spend time explaining their choice. Now you had something like that, Christopher, but that wasn't really with the papers. It was more on the wordings, right? Or the terminology.
Let me open up the articles
The
real
themes.
quick because I'm gonna show it here real quick. It says they actually start introducing the bibliometric analysis. Let me see if I can share this. How do I share this? There we go. So when it starts with the sharing, it says that in a total of 234 articles being identified, they process it to this system,
BOS
BOS
viewer.
viewer. I've never used that before, but it's a very interesting how they came up with these figures. So
Ooh,
I found it very like in your face. It was
yeah,
actually right there. So
nice,
at least
nice.
in my article, I didn't have this particular area.
How many
I didn't
articles they
have
had? 200? They had 200?
254. Let me see. 234. 234 articles.
Okay, great. That's great. I like that. I'll look into that. I don't usually teach that, but it's definitely it's more systematic approach, and that's again that's harnessing AI really. That's a type of AI.
Basically, so I guess in my particular case, it was slightly different, but I don't know. I haven't read any other papers, but the hypothesis, I found it curious because they did the hypothesis based on these figures. So I would have expected a paper that is focused on quantitative to make their hypothesis once they start taking a look at the data. But they made this bibliometric analysis, and then they said based on these findings, we have the following hypothesis, and then they start putting the statistics, and then they say, well, the hypotheses were partially fulfilled because the literature says this, and that following this theory.
Okay, very good, very good. Yeah, very interesting. Thank you for that. I like those drawings too. Um, the fact that they were colored is it's always an issue. Is always an issue in publishing whether you're going to have a colored graph or not because it adds cost. But yeah, so anyway, it's very nice. Okay, let me continue. So I was asking you guys which other things you didn't understand. So if a paper has relevant references, how would you know that? That might be also confusing. And patterns in literature reviewed. So in a literature review, they should be explaining, describing those patterns, like in the bibliometric thing that you just showed, there was pattern, right? And it was showing like bubbles of themes, right? The thing that you just showed, Christopher. So those kinds of patterns need to be discussed in the literature review. Repeated results or repeated themes that they find in the literature review. That's what you're going to discuss there. Theoretical and conceptual frameworks. How did you guys do with this question? Do you know what a theoretical framework is?
Basically, the theory is behind explaining what the problem is.
Well, so we're gonna conduct some regression and like we're looking at doing a regression paper relating several variables. And we're going to talk about dependent and independent variables. So what we're saying is that one influences the other. On what basis can we make those kind of statements? Like you guys are beginning researchers, some of you have a little more experience, but you guys are not by any means experts really in anything, right? So you're going to appeal to the literature, appeal to the experts, appeal to empirical literature, like actual theories with empirical evidence that the theories have some sort of evidence to back them. And then you're going to lean on them and maybe tweak them or test one aspect of it. Or so basically there's a theory underscoring what you're doing. So you don't have to prove that relationships are what you're assuming they are, or what you're going to pursue is that there's a causal relationship between variables. The independent move the dependent. And the only way you can do that without any expertise is to get it from somebody else. So that's where the theories come in. So these relationships, for instance, if you guys, let me remember, many of you guys took the business degree, right? Who didn't take business? Was Christopher? Who didn't take a business degree here? I think just Christopher did not. Everybody else, let me see, hands. I gotta remember now our talk last week. Carlos and Christopher. Everybody else has business of some economics or business, right? So in economics, same sort of thing. And in finance, there are relationships between variables such that we consider consider some variables predictors of the dependent variables, like they cause or move or drive that dependent variable. And we can do that, and we can attribute those relationships based on theory. So that's what I wanted you guys to look for. Are there theories that they propose? Are they leaning on certain authors? Are they, in the introduction, in the literature review, in the methodology, are they mentioning these theories that they're testing? That's what you're going to try and find there, and that's what you're going to assess. And the conceptual framework is modifying from the theoretical framework of the basis what exactly they are going to do in their paper. Okay, so that's the difference between theoretical is like the standing status quo kind of literature that's been done before, those theories that have been already tested, and the conceptual framework is how are they looking at it? How did they modify those theories, those relationships to test? How are they going to test those relationships with the data that they have? Okay, so you guys don't have any questions about the research variables. So what are the independent and dependent variables? So for instance, if you want to study the economy, what variable are you going to use for that? I mean, there's so many different ways to look at the economy. Some people will say, oh, well, we look at GDP, right? Gross domestic product, that's a measure of the economy. Other people will say, well, we look at employment. That, we look to see employment numbers. That's a measure of the activity in the economy. So how are you going to look at the economy? Usually it's GDP, but you could look at it with other lens. And which one, what are the relationships? Which one are dependent? Which one are independent? Confounding variables, we just talked about that. If you have problems with that, feed your paper into an AI and see what confounding variables were presented there. See if that helps you. Hypothesis, they should clearly mention the hypothesis. When hypotheses are mentioned, it usually is stated in the status quo. So it's going to be stated, the hypothesis it'll come from the literature review. That there's something interesting, like we talked about last class. There's something interesting. Someone, Karjit, wanted to speak.
Yes, Professor. In my paper, there is not a clear hypothesis, a formal hypothesis, because they instead talk about the methodological propositions and the limitations aligned to that.
So they don't test.
But I didn't
They don't
find.
test. They just do
No,
literature review.
no,
In your opinion.
no.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Okay.
that's why that was the other one that I went neutral, because I couldn't find
Okay. Okay.
the hypothesis.
Okay. Okay. Well, we can look at that. I'll have a look at that later. All right. So the hypothesis should be clear and it should be testable. What do I mean by testable? What do I mean by hypothesis? What's your notion of hypothesis? And it says hypotheses, it's a plural. So there can be many. So,
Oh,
Karjit again? Hand up? No?
Carlos.
Carlos?
Yeah. So what I understand by a hypothesis is like the possible answers to your problem that you propose.
Okay. Anybody else?
It's like what you think is gonna happen, what you think explains what's happening. So you're gonna test that and see if your assumptions based on the theoretical theories that you're using to back you up are actually happening in real life and in an empirical sense.
Okay. So it's something you want to test, you're right. You want to test if it's happening, and the hypothesis that you state, you state the hypothesis as a null hypothesis. Do you know what a null hypothesis is?
It's the default position that you take.
So the null hypothesis, okay, so our approach is to pursue a research on a question that hasn't been researched before, right? So we want to pursue a topic that hasn't been published before, so it's new. So in other words, there might be some sort of consensus about a subject matter. So you do a literature review to find out what that consensus is, or majority of authors say such and such about a topic, and then you want to verify, you want to find a way, you want to find data to test if that's actually true or not. And your approach is to begin by making a null hypothesis. A null hypothesis is a statement of like there's nothing new to be found, or that everything is as the authors before, prior to you, have seen before. So for instance, just I don't want to make it too complex, but if you believe that all executives that are male have the same blood pressure, so do a scientific paper about stress, okay? So all executives or CEOs of companies have the same blood pressure, or we'll even be more specific because there could be a difference between men and women. So all male executives who are CEOs have the same blood pressure of males of the same age who are not CEOs. Nobody's done that before. Let's say nobody's done that before. So there's no reason for me to believe that they are any different. I suspect it's different. I suspect. But in the null hypothesis, I would state male CEOs of ages 30 to 55 have the same systolic blood pressure. I don't want to spell the whole. So systolic blood pressure as males, non-CEOs of the same age, right? I have to say male, non-CEOs of the same age. Do you guys follow my logic? So no one did this before. I have an interesting research project. I have access to CEOs. They've all agreed to let me take their blood pressure, and I want to pursue this project. So this study, that's my null hypothesis. Nobody did it before, but I suspect it's not true. But I begin with a null hypothesis, and then I state an alternative where I suspect. So the alternative hypothesis could be three things. Three different hypotheses. I could say that I think CEOs, male CEOs, have a higher blood pressure. I could say I believe, in the alternative, if I find evidence against the null, I believe that male CEOs have a different blood pressure. or I think they might have less or lower blood pressure. Maybe they do. Maybe male CEOs are so relaxed. They make so much money. They don't have stress, whatever, you know? So if I have no idea, I'll just make the alternative uh different. So a different blood pressure. Okay.
So for the Excel sheet, when it comes to the hypothesis, when we give them the grading, we just have to say that hypotheses are specified, are defined, or do we
Yeah,
have
you
to
don't
like
have to you don't have to
quote?
state them all. No.
Okay,
But you could say, yeah, they're clearly defined. You can cut and paste them even if they're clear. If they're not clear, then you say they're not clear. You can show me they're clear by cutting and pasting them. So you guys understand my explanation of null and alternative? Okay. So, and it has to be testable. They have to be able to, the authors have to be able to falsify their null hypothesis. That's the idea about testable. 1 second. Just 1 second, please. Okay. What was I saying? So you should be able to falsify the null hypothesis. If there's no way, if you don't have the data, you don't have the means to be able to falsify this, that's not a good hypothesis. Okay, so you should be able to. So it should be possible to falsify the null hypothesis. I mean, not that you find it to be false, and then you are in favor of the alternative, but you should be able to test it. Okay. I don't know how to say this. I hope you understand what I mean. So you should be able to broach that. If you have a project, if you have a null hypothesis, but you have no means to test it, then that's not a testable null hypothesis. Okay, what else? Okay, each hypothesis describes a predicted relationship between two or more variables included in each hypothesis. The hypothesis logically flows from the theoretical or conceptual framework. So relationships that you're going to test should be spelled out in the conceptual framework. And anticipated relationships should be expressed. I think I showed you that last class with the Excel spreadsheet that I had and the relationships, the plus and minus. Anyway, I attempted to explain that. All right, sampling. Any questions about any sampling? You should be able to identify sample size. If this was done in Karjit's case, he said there was no real So this could just not apply. None of this could apply, Karjit, right? This would be NA, not applicable if they didn't sample.
They didn't sample, but for example, in the first one, the sample was the 92 papers, but then in the only one I put as neutral was any example bias in the chosen method is acknowledged. No, I didn't find it because it wasn't explicitly like stated. So that was the only one that I put as neutral. Everything else, I understood that yes, you can find it as the samples were used in the papers.
Yeah, you had samples in the papers. Yeah.
Yes.
So they actually analyzed 92 papers, or did they?
Yeah.
Wow.
The sample of 92 international papers. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think this is yeah, so this would be per paper, and I don't expect you to do that. So you could just say not applicable in any of this.
Okay.
The research design, you could evaluate the research design. Yeah, assumptions underlying the design. Well, so if you feel uneasy about these, I mean, do your best to answer these questions, because it's going to help you being better prepared to prepare your own paper, right? That you understand these questions. The role of the researcher specified. This might not even be in the paper.
I also put that as neutral.
Yeah, it might not be in the paper.
That was the only one in that section that I have neutral because it's not specified as like the researcher was evaluating and methodologist, but not it wasn't specified. Well, I couldn't find it.
Okay. What about external and internal validity? Did you guys understand what that's about? What's internal and external validity? Let me ask somebody else here. You guys are in my front panel. Let me see. Andrew, did you understand, or Hannah-Laure, Kathy? What internal and external? You guys have AI. You guys can look at what it means. What's internal and external validity? I mean, it's one thing to have the information. It's another thing to understand the information, right? I get it. So that's what I'm here for. So look up internal and external validity. So this is under the topic of research design.
In my paper, I did not find the external one, but I did find the internal one as the use of models used. I don't know if that's correct.
What do you mean? That's what it said in the paper?
Yeah, the model choice as the internal validity, but the external I couldn't find them.
What does internal and external validity mean? I'll give you guys a few minutes to look at it. You know what? Let's take a break. I'll give you guys 10 minutes. We'll come back at 7:15, like 9 minutes, and you guys can look at that. And when we get back, we can talk about it. Okay? Let's work on this one. So I'm going to pause. All right. So tell me, what did you find out about internal and external validity of a study?
So it says that basically it's the cause and effect relationship that the study has with itself that is free from confounding variables.
So it's the
That's the
extent. Internal is the extent to which the study actually is able to conclude that there's a causal relationship. Now, if you watch the videos that I posted, did you guys watch those videos? What happened with tobacco industry and smoking causing cancer? What happened there was because a actual research study, an experiment couldn't be devised where people were forced to smoke and other people were restricted from smoking to test health outcomes as a result of smoking over a long period of time. Because of the ethical concerns of doing that, there's really no existing studies that will prove a causal link between smoking and cancer. However, in 1964, Surgeon General of the United States stated that smoking does cause cancer. So how was that even possible without the actual experimentation proving the causal effect? And that was the question that tobacco companies relied on for 40 years to put doubt in the minds of the public that there was even a risk of smoking and a causal link. So they were questioning the internal validity of all the research that was done, because none of them were really experiments with people being forced to smoke cigarettes against other people who were prevented from smoking cigarettes to see what happens. Okay, so that was an example where they questioned the internal validity of those studies, that the causal link was not proven. Okay. So that's what internal validity, and in the experiment, in the study, experiment or survey, and what we do with econometrics or using like large databases where we actually didn't experiment, but we collect data through surveys, and then we try and attribute with the methods that we use and the theories that the empirical analysis is based on, we try and test those relationships, right? Those hypothesized relationships. And then let's say we find it, that there is in the study, we say, okay, look, we found this result. There's evidence of a causal link because we controlled against other variables that may be explaining that that relationship. So in the case of smoking causing cancer, again, the tobacco companies raised that, oh, well, they question the internal validity of the study. Well, there's a correlation, but just because there's a correlation, it's not necessarily causal. There could be other reasons that are driving the result, that people who smoke tend to have a greater tendency to have cancer. It could be that people who smoke are also people who have genetic disposition to cancer. So that's kind of like a confounding effect. And if you can't control against that, if you can't test for genetic factors of cancer risk, then, you can't test that anyways. External validity. So that's internal validity and confounding factors. External validity is that even whenever you do a study, anyone does a study, why would anybody care about that study? Well, it may affect their community. It may affect the world at large. It may affect, outside of the study subjects, it may affect society. So as a result of a study conducted, would that relationship carry outside of the study subjects? In the general population, under what circumstances would it even apply? That's external validity. Okay, so is it relevant or generalizable? Generalizable is a word that it always gets highlighted when I use Microsoft Office and Excel, but it is a word that we use in research, generalizable to the greater population. So will it apply outside of that study? So the research addresses issues related to internal, external validity. So is your paper actually looking at that, questioning and trying to control for confounding factors of finding an internal or a causal link between variables inside of the study? And what are the barriers, or does it discuss the barriers or the problems with trying to generalize those results? Is that in the paper? Does it address those issues? It doesn't say that it has to be internally valid and externally valid, just that it talks about those issues around the paper. And that question here, generalizations that will be possible as an outcome of the research are described. So a little bit more about being generalizable. Any questions about this topic, these concepts?
So when it comes to the cell 36, where it says the role of the researcher, does that also have to do with the problem or the research
Well,
question that they are
this is
addressing?
under research design. And this was more,
Correct.
actually, this is here because, you know, this was here, I believe, because at some point, I had students doing papers together. I think that's what happened. And so I needed to have like the specific roles of or contributions of the researchers explicitly stated here. I used this was a tool for students to prepare their papers with, you know, as a checklist. This is like a checklist of what's in their paper and things that they mention in their presentation. You're going to see when you make your proposal presentations, there's certain things that I'm going to want in there, including these concepts should be addressed, not itemized, right? Like just, it should be in your presentation, in your proposal. And one is that you explain the expertise you bring to this topic and your research project. So that's kind of what that is. If that's not applicable at all in your paper, if they don't say, you know, the authors did this author did that, if they don't say anything like that, it's just not applicable, neutral. Don't put anything. I should have deleted that probably, but I just left it because I don't want to change it too much. If it's not applicable, it's not applicable. It's neutral. Okay, limitations and delimitations of this research are outlined. Do you guys understand that?
That's going to do with like the limitations of available data and also limiting the scope of the work, because if not, we will be researching forever.
Exactly. Great comments. Exactly. And that's what you're going to do too. You're going to state those explicitly when you get to your discussion and conclusion sections of your paper. Well, the discussion section, even in the methodology, you can spell out what you're not going to do, right? So there's what you're going, what you can't do and what you're not going to do. I guess limitations are what you can't do, and delimitations are what you're going to not do. You're going to kind of frame it, leaving certain things out. Okay. Data collection methods, where they got them from, any instruments that they use, measurement tools have reasonable validity and reliability. Do you have any questions about any of these?
In our cases, we're using basically regression, but in other papers that we might find, we might see different tools that might not be as known.
Well, how are okay, so measurement tools, so they may have used an instrument like a survey as an instrument, and then
Yeah.
they're trying to measure certain characteristics. It's going to depend on the questions they asked, how many questions they asked. And often in surveys, you see like the Likert scale, like the 5 or the 7 disagree, you know, like kind of like what I have here. I have the 5-point Likert scale. You guys know about the Likert scale? All right. And there's so much research about the quality of Likert scales. That's a tool, right? There's a measurement tool trying to capture opinion or, you know, in the survey, the responses to us, anyway, to measure, to measure whatever characteristic they're trying to measure. And And there's a whole literature about Likert scales and whether they should be 5, they should be 7, and how good they are at capturing anything and how they're used. You see a lot of surveys. I don't know how many of you guys have answered surveys, but despite the fact that Likert scale is used often, it's not a continuous variable. Likert scale is not a continuous variable. It is a ordinal variable, so you have to use ordinal statistics to analyze it. People use it usually to, they ask many questions around a topic, and they do like principal component analysis, PCA analysis, to try and group characteristics and look, so this is like what you were, who was it? Christopher was talking about the biometric, what is it called? Bioliterature, what was it? Bibliometric.
Bibliographic, yes, bibliometric.
Bibliometric analysis, right? So it's kind of grouping things together. And that's what they do with many variables or many questions on a Likert and a Likert type scale. And then they do a kind of a regression analysis, factor analysis to try and group characteristics and test if the questions are actually capturing similar concepts. And anyway, so it groups together questions, and anyway, and whether that's good or bad, is that addressed in the article. So that, like, a Likert scale is like a measurement tool. I don't know what kind of tools were used to measure in your papers. If it's a non-issue, it's a non-issue, but I'm forcing you to go into it to see how did they get this data? How are the values of the variables captured, measured? Anybody have comments about it? How did you find in your papers? What did you find?
They basically pull data from databases, from the IMF and other.
Yeah, but I know, but that's like, so did they talk about whether they were valid and reliable? Like, okay, I can go into OECD data and get data on Cuba. How good is that data on Cuba? I'm just saying, like, how good is data from China? How good is that? Like, they lie, they steal. I mean, China, right? They steal intellectual property. They lie. Why would they share valid data? They don't have to. So anyway, just putting it out there. So you can question the measurement of the data. You should think about it. Papers should mention it. If they don't, you can say strongly disagree or disagree. It's not there. Okay, so you can't just say, oh, I got it secondarily from OECD data. Well, how good is that? WHO data, how good is that? Anyway, then the data analysis results. So the results section. So we'll talk about the sections of a paper as well. The type of analysis is appropriate. You have to do a little bit of reading to see if it was appropriate. Tables and figures are clear and understandable. Statistical tests are correct for answering the research question. You got to dig a little bit. You can't just take their word for it. Was it the right analysis? And if you question it, put it in. I just copy and pasted. Sorry, I dragged the PDF of one of the papers into Grok, and it can read the paper and get most of the answers. So what you guys have done so far, if you haven't used AI, go use it over the next day or two and verify these questions. Okay, so check your work. Investigator clearly distinguishing the actual findings and interpretation. The interpretations are based on the data obtained. The findings are discussed in relation to previous research. All generalizations are warranted. Limitations of results are identified. So it's a lot of stuff here. It's just that you're not going to read this paper passively. You're going to assess it. And in the process, understand what I expect from you in your paper. Okay. Okay, no more comments, questions. So there were just a few things I had to spell out there. And if you feel uneasy about all this, that's fine. You're just learning. You're just familiarizing yourself with these concepts. It should feel a little bit uncomfortable because you are still students, right? All right, so let's get into the task of preparing you for this second assignment that I will make due next week. And it is for you to take a first stab at stating your research questions. Some of you have sent me emails. I haven't looked at them carefully enough about your research question. You can, again, use AI as your assistant to optimize your research question in the context of the area of research. All right, so I'm going to ask a few of you. Let's see who we're going to work with the research question. Last week, honestly, I don't remember. Who was it that we worked with developing a research question for?
It was me. Last week it was me.
Christopher, right? T. I found some really good papers on T, but I couldn't download them.
They had a
So,
paywall.
yeah, I mean, I could have.
Uh,
I have to make them free in general. It has to be the way you could. I didn't have much time, but what you guys can do, I think I mentioned to you through the Sistema de Bibliotecas, is you can request préstamo and they look for the paper for you. But you have to do that with good time, right? You have to do that soon. And did I show you the page? I showed you the page where you could do it, right? The formulario. So let's go into Google Scholar and get back to it. So I already showed you the document, the literature review document. Did I make it visible yet on the platform? I think I didn't, did I? I have here the ABDC website. Okay, so it's not visible yet. Let me, so I'll put that up, but let me show you so far. Okay, let me post what we were looking at last week.
Professor,
Yeah.
the assignment 2 is still not visible, right?
No, it's not
Okay.
visible. I'm going to make it visible after class. You can see it, but I'm going to explain it now. I think I did last class too. So, okay, so back to Google Scholar. So let me see who wants to work on a topic, on their topic. So who has kind of a research question? Put it in the chat. See who puts their research question first. And we're going to optimize the research question. Carlos, I never heard of survey papers before. You just wrote it in the chat.
Maybe there's something that's like more of a computer science thing.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
can, if you're interested, I can send you a few that I've read.
Sure. But usually we talk about systematic reviews. And it's the same ideas. It's the same idea. It's just a different term, I think. And I think I mentioned it. So systematic review will be trying to find all papers on a topic. US multinational company. Is this a new act? Sorry, Anna Laura, I'm not aware of it. Is this a new act?
No, it's not new. It's
Oh, it's current. It's when was it? How since when?
That's more than 20 years, I think.
Oh,
And
okay, okay.
Find the year because I don't remember right now.
And it's okay. So maybe you can explain it to me a little bit. The Foreign Corrupt Practices Act impact the direct investment of U.S. multinational companies in emerging. So them investing in emerging markets is governed by U.S. by U.S. law, or is that international law?
It's a US law, but basically, actually, it's from 1977. It's a very old law. I'm trying to see if for US multinational companies, if they trying to invest in emerging markets outside of the US, how does that law is gonna impact in some way if they're trying to do business in markets that maybe corruption is very common.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so what I did, so the question was, so everybody can see in the chat. So this was the question she gave. How does enforcement of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act impact the direct investment of U.S. multinational companies in emerging markets? I asked to optimize the question. It just edited a bit. This is Grok again. How does foreign corrupt practices enforcement affect U.S. multinational companies' foreign direct investment in emerging markets? Same thing, basically. It just moved the enforcement verb to the end of the statement. So then I asked, identify keywords for a search strategy using the research question. So it goes through and it cuts it apart. These are the primary keywords, secondary keywords, and it developed a search strategy for me. All right, so you guys can use that. And then from here, you can start. You bring that into Google Scholar and you do a preliminary search for papers. Okay, so what do you guys want to do? Do you want me to do this for you? Are you guys going to watch and then try your own? Are you going to try your own at the same time? Do you want me to wait for you? How do you want to do this? Because I want your attention. So I don't want to like have to repeat this. So we did this last time, sort of. I kind of went fast. I wanted to go a little slower. So see, remember what it does is it puts in the brackets, it puts synonyms, and then it puts other keywords with synonyms, and then trying to narrow the papers down to peer-reviewed articles, case studies, empirical studies, and then impact, effect, and influence. You could make that another bracket as well, because there's no action word here. Any comments? What do you guys want to do? You want me to continue?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to, okay, so here's some databases. Okay, let me also talk about the databases because I'm going to Google Scholar, but in the end, we have to get the papers. And the only place we get the papers from, well, some of them are publicly available in Google Scholar and others are blocked. So we need to take this to Sistema Bibliotecas, and they do have the search bar in general. But I found if I go right into EBSCOhost, so that's for business, EBSCOhost, EBSCO. JSTOR is economics, right? So these are the databases and ProQuest. These are the business databases. Okay, so write those down if you didn't know. So we can search directly into those. And then we'll find the papers that we have access to. So you're going to try both Google Scholar and these. You can go to the general search bar in bibliotecas, but I don't know. I was finding more success with going in each of these for some reason last week. Okay, the years. What do you want? What years do you want to look? What scope? So what, Annalore, what years do you want to look at? I think that will help here because you're telling me it goes back to 1977. Do you really have time in 3 months to look at all those papers?
I think the last 5 years, 10 maybe.
Maybe we'll go with 10 and then and see what we get and decide if we cut it or expand. I mean, what are some of the, well, you know what you need to find, I think, in relevance to your topic is any changes. Was there some liberalization, like, or there was a deregulation, or is there any time frame? Maybe we can even ask. I'm going to AI for everything now. It just shortens time down. Let me put it here. What are the recent changes to the foreign corrupt that may affect the study of this research topic? Just checking if there's any big changes over the time. So anyway, there's a bunch here. Okay, 2024, 2025. Oh, it's recent. Did I say the word recent? Uh-oh, that's why it's giving me the most recent. I don't want to say recent. Let me try something else. I'm going to say the most impactful. How about that? So then we can narrow down the years to look. You agree? I don't want it to make it recent. Now it's stuck with the recent thing. I'm going to say ever. Hold on, George. Let me just, I'll look at that in a second. Okay, so just to look for like any big changes that you can use as a cutoff for your research. So 1998, there was something, amendment 2010. Okay, so that, I mean, the Frank Dodd Act might be, okay, blower protections. So, you know, that might be a good cutoff, right? So that's going to be then 15 years. What do you think?
Yes.
So then we can argue that 15 years back to the Dodd-Frank Act. Okay, so whistleblower provisions transform FCPA enforcement by leveraging private actors, making it essential to study their effect on corporate behavior and FDI patterns. Okay, so there we have a rationale. Okay, so we're going to go with 15 years back to where I was, and I was going to take, so back. All right, so we had the search strategy over here. And foreign U.S. multinational company. And we want to do something with regression, remember? So we're going to add regression. Let's see what it does. So I said add terms to select papers that use regression lines to the search strategy. Oh, look at that. So it gave me all these different. Okay. So it's very specific. Regression analysis, regression model, econometrics, quantitative, statistical, multivariate, all this stuff. Okay, let's try that. Okay, ready? We're going to take that. So everybody gets the idea, right? We're going to use AI to just be much more comprehensive, and remembering that you don't have to do a systematic review, but finding a systematic review or something equivalent to a survey paper like Carlos mentioned can help you too to grasp all the papers. So we're going to do this. We're going to go to, now I'm going to go back to Google Scholar and share. I'm going to put it here. And I'm going to just search it, and then we're going to, what happened to my, there. Okay, I got to make it wide enough. Can you guys see all that?
No.
Not yet. Okay, there you go. So I put it in, and we said we're going to go back to 2010 to 2025 and search. If you want systematic reviews or like the survey kind of studies, survey articles, you can pick review articles, and those will be articles that are literature reviews that compile other articles. So this one goes, this is 2024, Agency Theory, Corporate Governance and Corruption, Integrative Literature Research Approach. I think that's, okay, maybe this one's better for international business. Is international business in it? Oh, it says multinational, so that's okay. All right, causes and consequences of corruption. What do we know from a cross section of countries? Okay, look, and that has the act in there and this one too. So these are interesting. I would just take these papers and they're both available. Okay, Hannah Laura, because these are going to be there. Well, this one's more recent. This one's older. So that's interesting too, because that's even before 2010. So that's interesting. I don't know why it gave me something before 2010 when I gave it a relevance. I'm not sure what happened. Let me go back. 2010 to 2025. If I click here, it ignores that. Include citation. Okay, anyway, okay, review articles. Anyway, it's worth getting these two. Are you doing it at the same time as me, Anna Laura? Are you doing,
Yes.
you want me to copy this in the chat, the search strategy? I'll put
Please.
it in the chat.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so you can do it at the same time and have all the same. So George commented, can we narrow it down further to specific to a region or type of investment, for example, investment in green technology? So that's a good suggestion, George. Let's see first what we have and then if we need to narrow or not. Let's see. Okay, so she has two review papers here that are interesting. Also interesting is cited by. So this is what I taught you last week, is how to cite. They just give it to you in APA. That's what we're going to use. Cited by is also useful. This in 1 year was cited by 73 other papers, which is very interesting. So it's kind of popular. I can look at all those papers that cited it. I can search within the citing articles as well. Do you understand? So these are all the papers that cited that paper since it was written and published. And then I can search for specific things in these papers. Let's see if any of them did regressions. So there were 73 and now it's down to 49. Did some sort of, look, empirical insights. Analysis. So these did some sort of regression on the topic. I don't know. You'd have to read them carefully. So how do you read papers or decide if you want a paper? You open it, like quite a few of these are available. So that's good. Doesn't want to give it to me. So I'm going to click here instead. Clicking in different places. Well, I thought it was available. It's not available. Striking the audit committee effectiveness in times of crisis, empirical insight on key audit matters. All right, so what you have to decide, you can't read everything. Karjit was saying you're never going to get done. So you really got to stay narrow and focused. Always reread, look at your search terms, make sure you're picking up things that are relevant to your research. Remember, the order matters of the search strategy. You want, in her case, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act to be the first at the beginning because that is she wants to be sure that's in the paper. Okay, and that's probably the most important thing. And then that is multinationals is also that comes up next. So this is good ordering. So we picked a review article to begin. And then we went to look at, oh, sorry, one more time back. And then we looked at the cited by, because that would say from 2024 to today in publications, if there was any improvement or commentary on this review article. So that way you would capture the most recent articles of any significance. Okay. Notice the journal. This is not necessarily a business journal. For your research, I explained to you last class for your papers, 80% of the articles that you use as literature in your literature review or your references should be international business or business journals of quality. 20% can be thesis, articles, trade journals, websites, other things like that, or like psychology journals. This is a sociology, psychology journal, which is fine. And they don't have to be of great quality. They need to be of significance to you. Okay. So that might be of significance or not. All right.
I have
So
a
this,
question
yeah.
regarding, since we're talking about international business, and in this particular case, there's a legislation that is governing or regulating how U.S. multinationals will conduct business in another country. I'm thinking about how you mentioned if we're gonna use government issue statistics. So in that case, how how can we address it? For example, there should be maybe an investment or a bureau in the US that sort of keeps track of the registrations
Well,
for these companies.
this is why you're going to read the papers and see where they got the data and see if you can get the data. That's what you have to figure out in the next week or two, because you're going to narrow your research questions to make it a feasible research project. Absolutely. So am I answering your question? So you're reading papers to see how they did it so you can get the same data, whether you can or cannot. Since I
No,
want you to do,
I was referring more like where I know that 80% has to be academic high level journals, but s- government issue statistics.
oh, I see what you're
When,
talking about. But you're
yes,
talking about papers or
no,
government issued government research?
yes and no. Thinking a little bit like a parenthesis, for example, uh, China and India, they have statistics of how much tea they export or their crop yields, but we gotta know some of these governments, they have an interest to inflate their numbers. So when citing them, how would that
Well,
be a
you
valid source or?
no, well, you just go for it and don't worry. I mean, too much at this level, but in the future, right? You get an idea from insiders, if that's going to be your area of reliable statistics. Ever since I came to Puerto Rico, everyone tells me that the Puerto Rico data, well, anybody in academia questions the quality of Puerto Rico data. And that is concerning, but it's all that we have, and it's a start. And it's lately they've had somebody in the Bureau of Statistics for Puerto Rico who people find reliable, and he's supposed to be doing a good cleanup. And it is a major issue. Like if people don't think it's reliable, why should we use it? But it's all that we have, and you just state it. It's the best you can do. This is the data we have. This is what we get. And then in the limitations, you say it's questionable, the quality of this data, but this is what we have. That's what you do. And then you work towards improving that data source and even identifying biases and maybe making like confidence intervals for your results and saying these biases have affected our results in such and such a way, but we still have, there still can be something to be gained. There's no perfect study. So you have to become a master of I mean, you don't want to manipulate, but you want to be as transparent as possible. But you also don't want to just be like frozen because you don't have the perfect data. So you do the best to use what you have and be transparent about the power or the, what do you call, the quality of your findings, So so this was the looking at the cited by, look at these 1,000 cited here, but that makes more sense because that's since 2006, right? 1,000 citations is, but that's still a lot for a paper. So that might be worth looking at is one recommendation. Did you get them then, Anna Laura? You have them? You have those papers? Were you able to download? If you can't, let me try this one. If it shows up. Nice. It's coming down. Yeah, so you can download that. Easy enough. Are you going to read the whole paper? You're going to, this is a handbook. This is a book. And you have the whole PDF, which is cool. And, but it's probably going to end up being a reference book. Very cool. It's probably, this is 2006, so maybe there's a more up-to-date version as well. You can look into that. So this might be a good reference. I can't guarantee it. You can look at the reviews of it and get an idea if it's for you. Yeah, so we have lots of, now you have, you know, you can get a nice review in Amazon of that book to see if it's going to be useful to you. In terms of the paper that I can't seem to get, but let's try. Let's go to Sistema. Let's go to the bibliotecas. Oh, now something else is happening. Maybe it was just a momentary thing. I couldn't get in. Now it's going to open. Let's see. Let's see. Patience, patience. It looks to be loading very slowly. Oh, oh. It's teasing me. I don't think it's going to open. So let me go back and try and put it in. Oh, it came. View PDF. Were you able to get it?
Yes, just now.
Oh, good. Okay, so it was just frozen for a time. Okay, so you have it. And it's visible. So what you're going to do is you're going to read the abstract. It's just a summary. It's very brief. So then maybe skim through the intro, check the methodology. What did they use? Very nice. They did this literature review method. Nice. So it lays out how it conducted the literature review. So, you know, we did a search strategy. We put it in, and then we went into we went into review articles, and we found this. So it's very important to keep track of how you found papers, and that's what you can do in the Excel sheet as well. So just skim through here and then get to, so now they do an analysis of papers. So they start to organize. So this is pretty detailed. You probably just want to jump to the conclusion and see what happened. So just to get a feel if you're going to go deeper with this paper, you don't want to spend 2 days reading this paper if it's not useful, right? So kind of look at it and then decide if you're going to keep it, mark it, save it so that you have it. And you're going to save this one too. Now we're going to go back here. And I'm just going to pick, oh wait, back again. No. So this was custom range 2010 to 2025. And I want all articles. Before, the one I picked was review articles, right? So I want all articles. And now it gives me 24. Did we start with 7? I remember 73 and it was less. But anyway, okay, let's just go with the 24 for now. And it post them not in numerical order, but by relevance. So this is sometimes using citations. I'm not sure how it exactly does it, but more like the matching terms. So this is the most relevant in terms of years and the terms that it's matching up with the search strategy. And it pops up too. So, you know, you have a very good topic. Everything's going smoothly here. Things are just popping up.
So far.
Things are so remember, you want to focus on papers that do regression analysis. Later, you might want to get papers that do other things, but for now, you want to see how they analyze the topic, okay? And you want to see the data source. That's what you really want to get at for this assignment number 2. What in the world did they study to study this question in an empirical way? Abstract. Let me see. Over the course of 35-year lifespan of foreign corrupt practices, there have been surprisingly few attempts to analyze the impact of the statute on company. Did you know this, Annalore?
No, I didn't.
Empirical studies have instead focused on macroeconomic indicators of foreign direct investment, including that the statute deters investment in countries perceived to be corrupt. However, firm-level analysis of companies who have been subject to enforcement actions under the FCPA with either the United States Department of DOJ or the Securities and Exchange Commission paints a different picture. An examination of firm-level decision-making through a case study, okay, so they did a case study, and broader statistical quantification suggests that these companies do not, on balance, divest from these countries. Interesante. Theories which can reconcile these potentially contrasting observations of FCPA's impact in emerging markets suggest changes to the statute's enforcement policy, which should be considered seriously by regulators. This note, so you have to read this in the sense that, did they answer the question already? Do you need to modify your question? How do they do it? How will you do it differently? So this is a good paper, right?
It is.
Very good.
Looks like it.
It looks like it. Okay, so I'll download it too. So see what they did, see if it's satisfactory, see where they got the data, think about what you could do different, modify the question given what you find here. So read this one thoroughly. So how I download papers again was with the author. Oh yeah, it's Sinsky. Oh my goodness, how many ways? So this is like Polish or something. Sinsky. And what year was it?
Yes.
What year was it? Did you catch that? 2013? Oh no, that's his JD. I don't know. That's him. Let's see what year. 2013. Impact of. Okay, very cool. So we would be 10 years after this paper. So is there something else to research? Like you can just say doing an update of what they did, try to replicate what they did. You know what I mean? The world has been different in the last, since 2013. Things have changed for sure. So we found a good paper. Let's go back and read a few more. So you have 24 to look at, which is very cool. That's not a ridiculous amount. And you can decide if they're relevant and if you have trouble finding them. So this one, let's see if it comes up. So this is like a thesis, which again, I told you, you guys can include them. If it's relevant, you can include them in the 20%. So it looks like this research is like around the 2010, 12, 13. Very interesting. Okay. Also make sure that the the journals are relevant, right? This is international literature. So it's an international journal, New York University. I don't know what journal that was, but international business, okay, literature and business, journal of business ethics. So this is good. All good papers. Okay, so let's talk a little bit. So you're going to put this, you're going to save these papers. And then as I showed you last time, you download that information and export, right? You export the papers that you want. All right, so you're going to put that information into the Excel spreadsheet. So what I want for next week is that you find, I'm going to give you guys a lot, 20 papers. Is that too many? Feeling bad. 20 papers for next week. I'm just giving you a number because I don't know. I feel like 15. Okay, I can compromise 15 because 10 seems like too easy, but they all have to be pertinent. You're not going to just dump papers. I can tell if they're relevant or not, you know. So you're going to put them in and you're going to try and fill. So I'm going to put this spreadsheet so that you have the headings. You can add other headings. I went through this last week. You know, you can count them here, whether they're key articles or seminal papers. You're going to, from the, these will come in your download of the papers from Google Scholar. You'll be able to fill those easily because those come in the download. Any comments here about your research question? Oh, your research question is going to go at the top of the page. Because from when you start to when you like hand this in, you might change your research question a little bit. You're going to need to have a research question that is feasible to study. It means that data should be available and you're going to get a sense of whether and where you're going to find that data as you begin reading these papers. So you may modify your research question, slightly modify your search strategy and put it up here. And so you can make a quick mention of the reason for including it or excluding it. This is more for, because I'm going to have you submit this again later. You don't have to fit these in right now. So I'm going to do this. I'll leave them in there, but I'll go like this. Like you don't have to fill that in right now. Okay. Because that's going to be for the next submit. Journal quality, you guys can look it up. The years that were the focus of the paper, the countries that were analyzed, what methodology, which kind of regression did they use? What were the factors? So that's independent variables. And what were the dependent variables? Okay, so you're going to put them here, spell it out, what they did, and the results. So I'm reviewing what I did last class. So these were the relationships they found for the independent variables to the dependent. What data source, put the link in there or the name of the database or contact, anything. What was the sample size that they used? What theories or theoretical framework did they use? What was their conceptual framework? Any highlights, comments? And if it was difficult to find the article or you want to make some comments, you put it here. You could also put in here articles you couldn't find, but it can't be in your 15, but you want to keep them all in one place. Like, so the 15 you have to do your best to fill all these cells. But if there's more that you couldn't find, but you think should be in there, you can just put them and then just say they were difficult to find. Anyway, this is a record. This is your record that you're going to share with me. It's going to help you do your research because as you go, this is going to be very easy to write a literature review from because you're going to have all the papers itemized here and you're going to see all the results. So you can say and sort, these 5 papers all showed this behavior of this variable. And you can mention that in the literature review, exposing patterns. Okay, so any questions about dumping information into here? If you have trouble or you're running short on time, get AI to help you to pull this information. You have to check anything you get out of AI, you're going to have to check, but it might make it easier for you. Okay, it might make it easier for you to analyze your papers. So 15 papers for this round, and they should all be relevant to your research question that involves regression analysis. Okay, let's see. Comments, questions for me?
Professor, so la asignación sería básicamente identificar los 15 artículos, clasificarlos aquí en esta tabla y básicamente llenar esta tabla, ¿correcto?
Llenar esta tabla. Y si necesita añadir otro columns, you know, other
Otros
fields,
parámetros.
other parameter that you think that is really important that's not captured here that you're going to use. But these are the basics.
Okay.
Okay, if that helps you, if you think, oh, you know, I should collect this 15 papers, it's a lot in 1 week. It's going to help you decide if that's the paper you want to stay with or the topic you want to stay with or not.
Yeah. I have a question. If we go through once we go through this and we realize we were a little bit off on our topic or research topic or research question, could we basically change it? Do we have to do?
No, you can change it, but you have to submit this. So submit this and then you can change it. I'm going to
Okay.
ask, so that one of the next, let me see my schedule here. Because I'm going to make, so next week I'm going to start doing the statistics discussion and going through the notes that I have. So that's why I want to get you guys started. However you feel like, you know, a little bit confused about what you're doing or where you're headed, let's just go strong, like just go for it and keep me posted. I can help you so we can get started. You know, we're going to get going. Not going to wait to get the paper started. We're going to do our best to make progress in our research topic. And let me see my schedule here. So, oh yeah, so we have to do the analysis. So we have to start with statistics because next week's already the 15, and I have your multiple regression due on the 22nd. So, right. So that's what we're going to work on together next week is regression and multiple regression. Oh my goodness. And then I have a whole bunch of weeks to give you time to do your proposals. And then assignment 4, okay, so let me show you what I'm looking at. So this is going to be, I'm going to change this to the 15. Then next week we're going to meet and work on multiple regression analysis. I'm going to do like an intro and guide you, but then you're going to have that for homework for the week. And then from there, I'm going to talk about research, doing research, and your papers. You're going to change your research question, whatever the case is. And you're going to make me a proposal. Before then, I need to know. So like for next week, I really need the best you can do at framing your research question and giving me your literature review, because by next week, after next week, I need to put you in pares. I have to put you in groups because you have to prepare for the next month for the proposals and the critique. So I have to put you with somebody who's going to critique you and you're going to critique them. So you should know each other's research to make it feasible and easier. Then the next week, what you're going to do is repeat the literature review, revise your research question, revise your Excel literature review, and give me a draft of your paper. Okay, so that's how it's going to go. So you're going to give me that literature review again. And then finally, at the end, you're going to give it again. Okay, so this is just the first attempt. So keep it as informative as possible so you don't have to read those papers again. Okay, if you're going to use them or not, it should be clear in the Excel spreadsheet. You got it? You don't want to repeat and be lost with a ton of papers.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm also going to ask you by the end, you're going to present your regression models. But I'm going to show you next week how I want to see your regression models. We're going to do this exercise together. I'm going to introduce it. You guys are going to finish it. That's how it's going to go.
Profesora,
Sí.
I don't know if I saw it in the table, but something I did in my thesis when I did my master's that helped me was when I was reading the papers, and if I would see like a nice sentence that I think would be good to have in the thesis, I would write it down and have it like
Yeah, that's the
en la
last. I
fecha
have it in the last
bibliográfica.
column, George. I have it here. Highlights,
Oh, perfect.
comments. Yeah. You just put it there, cut and paste it.
Awesome.
And you can also, well, anyway, you guys have fun with this, okay? You have a whole staff of AI available to you that I never had or you never had 2 years ago. Aprovecha, get it to help you to really engage with the material, understand what you're reading, and cut through the pages and pages you have to look at. This can make it very much more feasible. All right. So it's 8:25. What more? You want me to do anybody else's or anybody else want me to try theirs? Anybody have some sort of a question? I think Anna Laura, you got a really good question, lots of information, right? And I'm happy for you.
I'm happy to.
Yeah. Yeah. So who else wants me to try? We have time. Maybe let's take a little break and come back and we can spend 20 minutes doing somebody else's. Let's take 10-minute break. Get some water, drink tea, I don't know. Chocolate. Okay, be right back. Who's next? Andrew, you sent me some questions. Do you want to give me revised research question?
So, Professor, I was thinking about the first research questions that I shared in the first class, and taking into account because I'm doing it as we speak. I'm seeing way too many articles. So now I'm trying to see how I can maybe filter it and just perhaps focus on two major countries, perhaps China or India, because at the end of the day, this is international business, so I need to be able to
Yes.
compare how they integrate. So
Yeah, we talked about this to do international business. Yeah, it can be two countries, it can be multi-country. Yeah, you can do that. Absolutely. Who has a question for me that we can optimize?
I have one, Professor.
Okay, George, put it in
Let's
the
see if
chat.
I'm gonna share in the chat.
Very good. Okay, let's see. To what extent do environmental provisions in trade agreements increase the share of renewable energy consumption in member states? Okay, interesting.
There's a lot of talk right now in regards to like plastics, and other environmental provisions in the United Nations. And I particularly one of my topics is renewable energy that I want to explore. So I was thinking, have we been effective? Is doing this policy at trade level regulation effective at all? Are we doing any progress?
Okay, okay. Okay, I'm just seeing maybe we have to narrow because you just mentioned plastics, but then you said renewable energy, but then it's environmental, like maybe just streamline it. Let's see if we can get our assistant to help. So let's see. So I'm going to say optimize the international business academic research question. How do the inclusion and enforcement of environmental provisions in bilateral and multilateral trade agreements influence the adoption and share of renewable energy consumption among member states, accounting for variations in economic development and regulatory capacity? Wow. So they went into specifics, inclusion and enforcement. That's good. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it.
What can we think? Let's see what it gets us. Okay, so now I'm going to take it and put in, how did I say it last time? Find keywords for a search strategy. I said something like that, right?
Yes, for the Boolean strategy.
Yeah, yeah. I said, wait, what did I say? Hmm. Where did I do it? I guess I did it in Brave. I did it in another browser. I said, add terms. No, 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 no. Wait. I want to use the same. But I got exactly what I wanted. Identify keywords for a search strategy using the research question. Okay, that's what I'm going to say. Environmental trade agreements, bilateral trade agreements, multilateral trade agreements, renewable energy consumption, adoption, share, influence, impact, effect. Don't forget to add regression, right? Okay, so it has a lot. It's going to be long. All right, so here's a start. Okay, and they give you the databases I mentioned. Oh, I didn't get into that, but you guys can, let me show you that actually. Okay, after initial searches, review abstracts to identify additional keywords, carbon trading, energy subsidies, or exclude irrelevant terms, fossil fuels. Okay, so this is just a start. And you can consider adding some other terms depending on what you see, right? You're going to see some pattern of terms. So you're going to do, you guys are going to do your search. You're going to find your 15 papers. The 15 papers could come out of the search that you do on Google Scholar, but it can also be once you get a really good paper, go into the bibliography, go into the references of the good paper and look for other papers. Okay, that's another way to do a bibliographic. Yeah, go into that reference and find other papers, or doing the review, like the systematic review that we talked about. That's will also be able to find other papers inside the references. Okay, so no, I'm going to take this and now take it to Google Scholar and let's see. Do you want me to put it in the chat?
Yes, please.
Okay. So let's go. I want to go back. Gotta get out of here. Profile. No. Well, I don't know. Is it going to bring me back here? Start over again. Okay. 79 articles. We can limit the 8 years. So which years do you want to look at? You want to try 15 years also?
Yes, we could do 15.
Again, you can think about it. You should have a rationale. You shouldn't, the year shouldn't be arbitrary. There should be a rationale.
Yes.
Hannelore, we had a rationale because there was a major change with the Frank-Dodd Act, and you know there was a rationale. So come up with a rationale, pick your years, and we're down to 68. So a lot of that was new literature. And
We could also
oh, we forgot
reduce.
to add regression analysis. I
Okay.
forgot to add. And oh, let's get the same one that Hannelore had. Let's add that one. She had a whole bunch of stuff in there. Just a second. It was this part here. So just add this. I'm going to put it in the chat. Okay, so that's going to be the two of those. Let me share Google Scholar again. Because, you know, we're basically looking for methods. Okay, so we have the same thing. Did it come up? No, I have to add it. I have to add it. Where did it come up? Oh, no, it did come. Oh, no, it's there. Okay. All right. So here are the papers. Using environmental provisions of FTAs from developed countries, units of analysis. Okay, so there's comparative research methodology. This is looks like a book. I don't know. What is it? Oh, we had this before. Okay, so something is wrong there, but it'll fix itself eventually. Let's go to the next one. So this is in ResearchGate. This might not have been published yet. It's very new. You guys can use it. I wonder if I have my VPN on, because I have some weird things going on. So what do you think of this? Sustainable trade policy, integrating green technology standards into international trade methodology. I don't think he did anything here. It's just like a mini paper proposal or something. Okay, so that's not it. I don't know. These are regressions. So what you're going to be looking for is papers with, if there's papers that have never done it before, then you have to find something like parallel that uses data that you might be able to exploit to do the analysis. But I don't see. Let's see this one. Oh no, this is in like Arabic. So these are a lot of environmental science. Okay, green policy making in top emitters, assessing the consequences of external conflicts, trade globalization, and mineral resources on, okay, in an international journal. Let's see if we can get it. Okay, let's have a look. The escalating levels of environmental degradation, along with escalating conflicts and incidents of trade disputes among regional powers, can exert a detrimental influence on the prospects of achieving sustainable development. Prior empirical works have tended to overlook the contributions of trade globalization and external conflicts to sustainable SUD is what? Sustainable development. Okay. Furthermore, prevailing studies on sustainable development often rely on various environmental metrics, economic growth measurements, or adjusted net savings as proxies, which fall short in measuring the multifaceted essence of sustainable development concept. Okay, this looks interesting so far. Thus, this research work assesses the heterogenic effects of trade globalization, external conflicts, and financial development on the comprehensive sustainability index based on environmental economic. Okay, so anyway, this is worthy of looking into. What is this? You can, this is from 2024. It's very recent. You
Yes.
might also want to do a review article. Let me send you the link in the chat if you didn't get it. You download it. If you can't get it here, is it here? Is this, it's not here. So if the others want to go, because the class is over, you and I can go and try and get this out of the bibliotecas, because it looks like you can't get it here. So, okay, any questions before I let everybody go? I can work with George just a little bit longer to get this, but I guess I can say good night, and everybody knows what they need to do for next week. For Wednesday, for next week, I'm gonna modify the dates of the assignment and post the literature review Excel file. Okay, so you guys
For
can
the
go and you
one,
guys can stay. You can watch me help George.
for the one that we have to submit for this Wednesday, it says discussant and presenter. We can just disregard those fields and just put our name on the document. And that
Which are you talking about? Discuss and present. What was that?
on the assignment that we have to submit for Wednesday, the first assignment, the Excel document,
Uh-huh.
it says discussant and presenter. We just put our name on one of them and convert in PDF.
Oh yeah, you're just the yeah. You are, so the discussant would be the person critiquing you, and you're the presenter. You're the presenter.
Okay.
Yeah, it's because I'm going to use that for the critique. So when you critique your peer, you're going to use the same document or a similar document. So yeah, you're the presenter. You're the presenter. Okay, George, let's look for this article in bibliotecas. I'm going to share, and you guys can stay if you want. So, bibliotecas, recinto de Río Piedras. Oh no, let's go here. All right, so then you have Restamo if you don't find it. Base de datos. Let's go
I
here.
was able to get it, Professor.
You got it?
Yeah, I was able to get it through the link.
Karjit. Okay, just hold on. let me show what I want. Okay, you were able to get George's article?
No, I'm sorry. This is George talking. I was able
Oh,
to
it
get
is
the
George.
article
Oh, okay. I thought you were Karjit. Okay, George, you got it. Where did you get it?
from the link you said. I think your VPN is blocking you because I was able
Maybe, because I
to.
don't think I even have it on, but maybe, I don't know. So anyway, you got it. That's good. That's good. Okay, but let me try to get it here as well, just to show you guys. So here in the base de datos, you have all the different databases, and the three that we use are JSTOR for economics, EBSCOhost, and ProQuest. Okay, you can go individually through them, or you can do the general búsqueda. But sometimes I get stuck on there. I don't know. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good. So let's do it here first. Let's try EBSCOhost research databases. And this is supposed to be for business. This is more like an environmental science. Oh, I hate the two-factor authentication.
I hate it too.
I was trying to protest it. Why do I have to have a phone to work? I mean, that's
Yes.
ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I mean, now people think it's normal, but I don't think we should think it's normal.
And it's for everything.
Yeah, giving them access to your personal devices is crazy.
No, it's wrong. We have to protest. There was one professor who doesn't have, there's one professor I know who does not have a cell phone. Can you imagine not having a cell phone?
Yeah.
He has a lot of peace. Nobody can reach him, but he can't do two-factor authentication for sure. All right, so here's the EBSCOhost. Yeah, my EBSCO. I should just be able to put it in here. Let's get the article's name. Uh-oh, did I lose it? Did I? There it is. Okay, so it's called, no. Am I gonna find it? Green policy making in top emitters. And really what you're looking for is the data, the variables, the relationships, the methodology. That's what I want you to look for this week. So
Okay.
put it in quotations. So it gets the quotations are important for the phrase. It might not work. Wow, we got it. Now we're going to see if it's there. View full text. I don't want to say anything till I see it. Two, 1, 0. Okay, I got it.
Awesome.
Okay, so JSTOR, EBSCOhost, ProQuest, or the general búsqueda. So what did I do? I went to Sistema, I went to Base de Datos, that's one thing. And the other thing you can do is go to, no, I'm going to pick the other one for whatever reason. I have trouble with the catalog. So if you can't find it, you do a préstamo. I don't know why they made this page. It's not very helpful. Let's do this one. It's actually you see this website. I don't know why it's different, but okay. So this one here, I'll put it in the chat, is going to give you the search bar for all the databases. It's supposed to be, but if you can't find it here, JSTOR, EBSCOhost, and ProQuest. Let me put this in the chat. This one is for the single search bar that goes through all, it's supposed to go through all databases. Okay, so let's see if it works. No, the article, I have to go back to the article. Where's that article? I'm lost. Is it here? Okay. Also, this search bar, see, and here you get base de datos too if you want to go one by one. This search bar is also available in Moodle, if you noticed it. Let me try it here and then I'll show you in Moodle. Okay, so it goes right to ESCO host. So it went right inside. So that's good. And it's going to ask you to sign in this time, which is weird. When you sign in, you use your student number. And you guys know how to do that? Everybody should know how to get into the databases. If you don't, let me know. It's going to ask for your student number and I think your social security numbers or your something. Your name. They asked me for my name and the last 4 digits of my social security. For students, they have different parameters. Is that right?
If like you can use either the last 4 or your PIN, I think. Should be either or.
So this worked. Okay. The other thing to show you is here. If you open on here on the right side, look what they have right here, the búsqueda avanzada. You can put it right there into Moodle. See if it works.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Let's see if it works. I think it should bring us right there, same place. Yep, it did it. Okay, so maybe it did it because I did it somewhere else and it knew where to go as well, but that's the way to get it. So anybody having trouble getting into the base de datos or sistema bibliotecas, let me know right away. I can help you get in. Preguntas. I have your attention. It's nice.
Just one last quick questions. I know that we have to use the 3 main business databases, but
you don't have to. It's just that's where you're going to find it. You don't have to. Yeah.
But I was about to ask, since I have my basis in anthropology and sociology, I know that I might be able to find some good academic articles regarding the field that I'm interested, maybe like a secondary or part of that 20%, even though I know the main focus is to do regression and international business. But for example, like ethnographic descriptions in order to be able to sort of know what's the discussion, because that's usually the sources that I have worked with. So now I want to do it numbers wise, but to be able to quote will also
you
help
can
me.
go in there and for sure, for the 20%.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, preguntas, dudas. Everybody knows what to do. I made a few people happy. We're on the right track. If anybody wants to meet with me about their topic or finding articles, you can meet with me. Just keep me posted, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Bye. Have a good week.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Professor.
Have
Have a good night.
Take care, guys.
Buenas noches. Buenas noches. Bye.